birthday, was freed from Soviet incarceration. And that the story. The Rebbe was arrested because of uh, because of his activities to strengthen Judaism in Russia, and he had clandestine uh, Torah schools, cheters, and he had mikvahs being built, and they would destroy them. It's going to come out a book pretty soon that 200 beautiful Jewish activists were murdered, Lubavitchers, for their activity. And the Rebbe, they wanted to murder him also, but they arrested him. The others, they just killed him in most of them, on their finding them teaching Torah. Of course, they are saintly and now, and of course, they have uh, positions as Kadoshim, as holy ones in the next world. We believe in a next world. I've told you the story many times that when the Soviets came to arrest the previous Rebbe, uh, they told him that if he doesn't cease and desist his anti-revolutionary activity of teaching godliness and to them they didn't believe in God, and um, it is the opiate of the people, and unfortunately, many Jewish communists. The most famous one was Trotsky. And the Bolsheviks, they were revolution. They led the revolution, and the when the Rebbe was known all over the world as the leader of Torah Jewry of Jewry. And the Rebbe was arrested. Louis Brandeis, the Supreme Court here in America, said that the Prince of Israel been arrested, and they got to work here in America. And it was the actually they got to uh, the senator from Idaho. Um, no, he was a senator in 1927. That was when his name failing me. You probably all know it. What was the senator that non-Jewish? The senator from Idaho,
Senator Bora?
Bora, right? William Bora. He sent a telegram. The Brandeis got to him. The Hasidim, the old Hasidim, and I knew them. Uh, they approached. Um, they got Bora to send the Bolsheviks who arrested the Rebbe and wanted to kill him, and they got to Bora, and Bora sent them a telegram that if they dare touch uh, this holy rabbi, he's finished with them. They didn't want to hear that because he was the only one, William Bora, who, for whatever reasons, he was pushing the Congress, the Senate, and he tried to influence the House that they should recognize the Bolsheviks as the official government of Russia. And he, Bora, telling them, if you dare touch this holy man, I'm finished with you. They didn't want to be finished with him, so they took away the death sentence, and um, I think this was and he was exiled to Kostroma for a very little time, 12 days, and on his birthday he was released, uh, and he was exiled from Russia, and he went from there to Poland, and he uh, built Yiddishkeit there. He had a yeshiva in a suburb of Warsaw. Um, and then he came to America. Uh, he was a strong personality, but he was a beaten person. He was tortured in both in by the Russians and by the Nazis, and miraculously he was freed from the Nazi stranglehold also, and he was brought to. He came to America, and he said he's gonna. Everybody said that America is different. You can't build Judaism in America. And the Rebbe slogan is that America is not different. America is nicht anders. America is not different. And we can build Yiddishkeit in America. And indeed, he was the pivotal rabbi who did that. He made the first network of day schools in America, and it's the day school movement that really saved Judaism in America. And of course, working with him all that time, working with him and working for him, working with him, the rabbi of our generation, who we commemorated his 30th yahrzeit a few weeks ago. He did all of the plans. First one was in Detroit. The second one was in Miami. The third one was in Philadelphia. And the fourth one was in Minnesota. And that's it. Four states had offices. And now there's an office in every state, in every country. There are 4,000 uh, uh, offices, branches, and so many shluchim, and there are the Chabad house is a common thing now. Every city has a Chabad house, and that's the Rebbe's creation of a Chabad house that you can you have Judaism there, you can daven there, and you can eat there, and in many places you can sleep there, like our Chabad house. Our Chabad house is one of the ranking, that one in West St. Paul, and this is a creation of the previous Rebbe and the Rebbe. And one of the first things I did here when I came with my wife of blessed memory to to the Twin Cities, I worked with the B'nai B'rith movement, with the BBYO, those kids, because they had no religious program. They had the strongest teen program. They weren't religious. I mean, they weren't reformed. They weren't conservative. They weren't orthodox. They were Jewish, but I saw that I could make some progress with them, and I did. Uh, I had groups. If any of you recall, Jonathan, do you recall that we had a place in Lake Elmo? Do you remember
No,
that?
that was before my time, Rabbi.
Okay. That was we had a place and we had a, a program called Live and Learn, where the teens from every movement, the Orthodox teams, the conservative teams, uh, uh, the reform movement there called Nifty. They sent groups, and they enjoyed it, and that was our breakthrough. Uh, and we did with the B'nai B'rith, and um, just going over some history that we were arsoned out. We had our day camp there, and we had these Shabbatons there. And the last group was a group of BBYO teenage boys. And uh, the only other shliach I had here was Rabbi Zeilengold. He should live well. And our place was burnt out in August of uh, we had it for 3 years. I think uh, that we when after that place was burnt out, we had insurance and we bought another place, which you probably do remember, Jonathan, and
Oh, yes.
a place on Montcalm.
Yes, yes. I was there. I remember buying books there from,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, with that, okay, that was more recent. We bought that in 1970. Uh, the camp was burned out in about 68. Uh, I anyway, uh, and we had Sefer Torahs where the place was gutted, and we had Sefer Torahs that were burnt, and were destroyed. And what do you have to do with the Sefer Torah that's destroyed? You have to bury it. Bury it, and you have to bury it near a person who lived a righteous Jewish life. And it was the most televised. Don't we had it on all the stations in the Twin Cities, and we had the last group, the BBYO boys. They buried the Sefer Torah. It was an educational experience, but it was for the whole Twin Cities because it was on television. And the burial was in the you bury it uh, in in lead coverings. You bury it. You seal the remnants of the Sefer Torah, the parchment, and the wooden. If they survived, and you bury it again next to a righteous Jew. Uh,
One other thing I remember, Rabbi, is your Sunday morning radio program. Ann and I used to listen every Sunday to your Sunday morning radio program.
yeah, I think that's how you got involved with us
Yes.
with the radio program. Yeah. Um, guess what we called the radio program? Shema Yisrael, Hero Israel. Remember?
I don't remember the name, no.
Shema
Yeah,
Yisrael. And we had a special introductory niggin, and we had it for about 25 years.
yeah.
And I suppose some people also, people became inspired by it. But back to this, so I was an appreciated rabbi by the B'nai B'rith, and we had a big convention here that was great, a great success. We didn't make the convention, but that was a convention that the B'nai B'rith District 6, and it was conducted uh, in the uh, the Highland Park High School and Junior High on the Snelling Avenue. So it was near us, and and that was I was invited to be a keynote speaker. And their theme was the right to be different. And there we got I got 200 boys to put on stone. We in the girls had service only with Rabbi Zeilengold. That we was only two. Which shluchim here. I brought Rabbi Zeilengold for the synagogue, and uh, we um, uh, we conducted this, and the Rebbe was very happy with it, and the Rebbe paid for the film. Anyway, that's so I became close with the B'nai B'rith, and they were very happy that we were giving some insight into the B'nai B'rith, because they weren't a movement, not of religion at all. They were a secular Jewish organization, a social Jewish organization, and the biggest Jewish organization. I don't know how it is now. But anyway, I was very involved then, and they invited me to be a visiting scholar at a camp that we stayed in, uh, in the Poconos. They had a camp there, and they had a day camp for Jewish kids, about 150 of them, uh, in the Poconos, and that's Pennsylvania. And they had Balak, which means they had a very modern camp with all facilities, and it was for they had uh, they chose the 40 most intelligent, activating and kids from the country, from the whole United States, and they brought them to this Kala in the Poconos. What was the name of this area? But anyway, uh, and the senior scholar, resident scholar, was the head of the Reconstructionist, Rabbi Ira Eisenstein. Um, they had a couple visiting scholars who were there for about 8 days, and I was invited to be one of the uh, visiting scholars, and that was, see how long ago it was. It was a mental sport. The Rebbe was very enthused that I should go. But I asked the Rebbe if I could bring my wife and uh, and those be well, who was 10 years old at the time. And they offered to give us a special cabin there. And, it was very accommodating, but the Rebbe actually very absolutely I should not take Mendel, Mendel on this program, but I should go myself. Okay, anyhow, the program worked out very nice. And, something took place in the program that I had, I had to miss a brain. I didn't have to. I had worked it out with the uh, directors of the collab that one night I want to go down to uh, Brooklyn. Poconos wasn't far. I get to take a bus and I'd be there in less than 3 hours. And I wanted to go and be present by the brain that the Rebbe made, Good Base Thomas, for all for whoever for the world, and I wanted to be there. I was close to them. I mean, I was in Pennsylvania, a neighboring state, and so I was gonna go, and I was the whole day on Yud Thomas. I told his kids all about Yud Thomas, and then I told them that I'm gonna go to be with the Rebbe on Yud Thomas. But the kids told me, why don't you? I told them I'm going to a pabring, and they never knew about a pabring. And I told them that it's a convocation where they sit and listen to the Rebbe and they sing and they say l'chaim on little cups of wine. And the kids were interested and they said, why don't you bring with us tonight? Well, I figured once they asked me that I should bring with them, there was no way that I was going to go to the Rebbe's bring because my duty was to help these kids, and this is something they wanted. So the Rebbe never knew. I never told the Rebbe that would be there on Yud Thomas. It's something I did by arranging myself with the B'nai B'rith directors. But I didn't show. I bring with the kids instead. Anyway, then I went after I finished on a Sunday. I was there with them one Shabbos, and I also praying with the little kids, which were right next door. You could you could go. It was right attached to this camp, and I praying with them. Kids, from 6 to 12 years old, and then I went to New York, and it was actually Shabbat Thomas fast day that we just commemorated on Tuesday. Was then on Shabbos, and on Shabbos you don't, and this fast day you don't do it on Shabbos. You put it off for the next day, the 18th of Thomas, and I did go to New York then. I could be by the Rebbe's Torah, and the Rebbe would speak on Chai Tammuz, and then this was on that was Sunday, and on Monday morning is when the Rebbe summons the three of us to come. We were told to uh, make a lot, make a drawing. Which one goes in 1, 2, 3, and which one goes first, which one of you goes second, which one of you goes third. But anyway, but the Rebbe made a parbreng, and he told why he was making the parbreng. It was 75 years from when his father-in-law was had a bar mitzvah, and on his 13th birthday, and his father, the Rebbe Rishab, Shalom Ber Schneerson, the Tzaddik Lebracha, Zkusi Avedolenu, it is brought down in Zohar, in holy sources, that a Bocher Bar Mitzvah is like a chosn. And just like, the Bar Mitzvah should be celebrated for 7 days, like Sheva Brachas for a chosn. And so the Rebbe did that, and the Rebbe Rashab, he said the mimer on the first day, but the Rebbe said a mimer every day for 7 days. But since the seventh day came out on Sunday, and that was a fast day, so he wouldn't do it then. But the next day he made it for bring, then the 19th Thomas. So the Rebbe explained to the people, surprised by bring, that he made this Monday, this unprecedented for bring. And it was at the beginning, it was the Parshas for bring. Nobody knew about it. The Chabad kids were in camps as counselors and going to camp, and the people were vacationing in the Catskills, and the men were at their businesses in New York, and but so there was like maybe about 100 people, boys who were learning in the yeshiva then, and some people who didn't have jobs. But I think maybe under 100 people. But boy, when they heard that the Rebbe was from Brady, they came running, and the crowd built up. But the break was very short. It was just an hour. The Rebbe said a mimer, and he explained why he was making this break, and we were to go in after that break to the Rebbe's office, and I went in second. Uh, I think Rabbi Gorner went first, and I went second. Rabbi Kunin went third. But I went in, and the Rebbe greeted me with unprecedented words, and he surprised me by what he said. I didn't know the reason I was being called in. And the Rebbe told me, because you held yourself back from coming here on Yud Beis Tammuz, so I ended the mimer that I was saying. I made this, uh, for bring that I made today. I made it for you, and he wanted to make a point that. If you have a situation where you can spread more, you can teach people, and there's a problem, you should problem with other who are not observant, and you should problem with them or anything where there's a, a if you people want to run and be by the Rebbe, but the Rebbe he created a movement that your place is with the Jews all over the world. You don't have to come running to see me. Rebbe did advocate coming to the Fabrings, but not when you had an occasion to uh, uh, educate Jews about their Yiddishkeit, and like you had, he told me, so I never told the Rebbe that I planned to come, but you didn't have to tell the Rebbe. And he told me that's, so uh, he told me that he made it for bring for me. The other two guys, Rabbi Kunin and Rabbi Groner, were on Yud Beis Thomas in New York. And, they were staying on for a while to be in New York. But I wasn't there. And that's what he said. So it's a great honor. And again, how many years ago? 56 years ago. And I'm glad I have a venue to tell about this story here. But now we'll learn um, Parshas Pinchas. Any questions on my story?
Thank you. It's very interesting, Rabbi. Thank you.
Well, I understand that Rabbi Moshe put this on a way that anybody could hear it at any time with our class. I don't know how many people have taken advantage of that, but that's I'm going to start from Pinterest. I'm going to start from page Aleph, first from the beginning. I'm going to learn one paragraph out, and it starts off with what the scripture says. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas, who's the narrator in the Chumash? It's God Almighty Himself. And so it offers, Moshe is a stenographer, writes down what God tells him. Moshe wrote the Torah, but God dictated it. And Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, Heshi B'Chamasi. He took away my anger of what was done by the fellow who brought the non-Jewish woman right before me and fornicated, and that's it caused a whole plague. This was Bilam's plan to get even. He couldn't get him by curses. God didn't let him, but he knew. He gave this advice to Balak that you want to get the Jews, the way to get them is to get them to sin. You got free choice. Over here, God stopped me from cursing them, which what you hired me for. Uh, and you promised me a lot of money. But I told you, and that's what happened, that I could only say what God allows me to say. But something happened, and this is uh, Bilam told Balak that how you can get them is get them to fornicate, to have relations with the Midianite, the women, and um, figure out a way to seduce them. And they did. They made markets to sell. The old women standing outside the markets, and they told them, "Go inside if you want to buy something." And there the young women were there, and they seduced the Jewish males. Also, when they got them very excited to live with them, to be intimate, they took out from from their garments. They took out avodah zarah, idols, and they said, "Hey, you got to bow to the idol before you have any relations with me." And they did. So they did both avodah zarah and they did uh, fornication, which is forbidden. In Judaism, intimacy is a mitzvah. But how? God created man, and then he said, "No, it's not good for man to be alone. I will make for him a companion to be opposite him." And And so God says, hey, he has to have a companion. And I'll make him a companion, a woman. And and this is, and we know the whole story, of Adam and Eve. But this was throughout the generation, with an exception that Jewish intimacy could take place only in one way, and that is that man doesn't own the woman as such. She has her privacy, and uh, first of all, there are all the laws that there can't be adultery and there can't be uh, with close relatives. There can't be what there's adultery and there's when you live with a sister or a mother. What is that called again? Do you hear me?
Yes, but I
Well,
don't know what they call it.
no, no, we know you. It's on the tip of my tongue. Um,
Incest?
it's intense. And so the A, uh, it has to be a woman. You can't have a fornication with a man. That's prohibited. It has to be a woman. And secondly, you're Jewish. She has to be Jewish. She can have been born not Jewish, and she's properly converted to Jewish. That can be fine. Some of the greatest marriages were like that. Boaz married a woman who converted Ruth. Joshua married a woman who converted, and but she has to be Jewish, and you can't just live with her like that. You have to marry her. It can't be with her. You get only after kiddushin, sanctification, and she has to have gone to the mikveh before, and then and only then can you live together intimately. And this has been the observant Jewish families have the largest families, and but this was a situation where they were fornicating with non-Jewish women and fornicating with them, uh, and this was it brought about a plague, and there was part of a revolt against Moses, and one head of the tribe of Shimon, head of a tribe, brought forth the princess, the daughter of the king of Tsur, one of the kings of the Moabites, and uh, and he confronted Moshe and said, "Can I live with this woman?" And Moshe said, "No, she's not Jewish." He says, "Well, who let you marry your wife? She wasn't Jewish." Well, before Moshe married her, before God gave the Torah, and the law was that you could only marry a Jewish woman. And when they gave the Torah, he converted her. And but anyhow, he fornicated very publicly. And Pinchas went to Moshe and said that, if such a thing takes place, will take the life of the fornicator. Well, if you catch him while he's doing the fornication with the non-Jewish woman, and he did that because he, uh, he got them, and with his spear, and he stabbed both of their genitalia, and then picked them up and showed them to the whole people, and. This is miraculous, and the Midrash also says how 12 miracles happened. That he could hold them on the spear and get them out of the tent and show them to the people. And not everybody was happy with what he did, but God uh, gave him uh, something that he didn't have. And God gave him, even though he was the grandson of Aaron, he was not a Kohen because the kahuna was something that was prayed Aaron and his two sons, and anybody who would be born to those two sons. But Pinchas was already born, and he wasn't included. But at this time, he was included when he did this act, and that act won him. That God Himself proclaimed him a Kohen, and so he had the Bris Kahunas Olam. And so it says here that Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, B'din hu she'ito scharo. It is the right thing that Pinchas should get his reward. Lochein Omar saying, Lo es brisi shalom. I will give him a covenant of peace. His whole life should be peaceful from here on in. And the Midrash says here something about Shalom. Midrash says, Lado HaShalom Shenasan the Pinchas. This matter of peace that he was given the right, and he was made a Kohen. Shalom she'ein ha'olam misnaig elo b'shalom. The world can only survive, can function if there is shalom, if there is peace. She'ein ha'olam misnaig elo b'shalom. V'ha'torah kulo shalom. Torah is totally peace. Shenemar, Drachel Darkei Noam. It says in Mishlei, in Proverbs, and you know this pasuk, Drachel, we say it when we take out the Torah, Drachel Darkei Noam B'chol Nesiboseha Shalom. Her ways are ways of peace, of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. People who meet each other coming from different places. Shalom, lo shalom. What does the Jew say to another Jew when he sees him? Shalom aleichem. Shalom. You have peace. I bless you with peace. And what does the guy answer him? Aleichem shalom. Unto you should be peace. Okay? L'chein shachris shoalin lo shalom. In the morning you ask each other shalom. Ube'emesh, kach sholim v'sholom. And at night when you meet, we one asks the other, how are you doing? Do you have peace? Shalom Aleichem, Shema Yisrael, Chosmim, Poroshika Shalom Alamo. In the prayer of the evening after the Shema, it says in Poroshika Shalom, God spreads on the Jewish people a tent, a sukkah, a shalom, a peace. Alamo on his people. Hatfilah choshmin b'shalom. Prayers end with shalom. Osher shalom b'mrama, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael b'mramein. Everything in Jewish life is shalom. Brawls and fighting is not part of, going to bars and fighting is not part of the Jewish way of life. The Jewish way of life is peace. B'birkas Kohanim, choshmim b'shalom. Hey, when the Kohanim bless the Jewish people, what do they bless them? Shalom, that's the last word. Yivarecha Hashem b'yishmerecha. Yor Hashem panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yish Hashem panav elecha b'yasem lecha shalom. So the Birchas Kohanim ends with shalom. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta. Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta said, Ein keli machzik bracha ella shalom. There is no vessel that holds God bracha is shalom. If there's not shalom, there's not blessing there. You have to have shalom to have a blessing in a situation. God wants that the Jews should have only shalom. And this Rebbe Chalapta says, and he brings a pasuk that everybody knows, hopefully, only shalom can hold blessing. Shneimar, Hashem oz li'amo yitain. God will give strength to his people. God gives strength to his people. Hashem oz lamo yitain. God will give peace to his people. Hashem yivorech. Then when they have peace, then God will Shem yivorech es amoy basholem. God will bless his people with peace. And you see in the Jewish lifestyle that, thank God there haven't been civil wars. If the Jews have their differences, they settle it. Not, civil wars haven't happened in recent Jewish history. There was during the times, and there was civil war, but then there wasn't bracha. But that happened because of things we don't understand in what happened in the times of the Tanakh. But there were very few civil wars, hardly any. And again, the Jewish lifestyle is not to spend time idly and spend time foolishly. And Jews didn't invent bars. and Jews don't, as a rule, attend bars. And other nations are jealous of Jews. Jews put their money in the bank and save it. And they don't, when they get their money and collect their salaries, run to the bars to spend it. And the whole Jewish lifestyle is because they advocate shalom. We'll go and learn a little bit of Bays. Let's see. Okay, what time is it now? It's 8:05. I want to learn. There's so much in here. I wanted to speak. There's. Okay, I want there is a very important thing here in this parsha, and that is that in this parsha it was revealed that women can inherit, and that was through the daughters of a fellow named Zelophehad. And in Yud, in Yud, in my Midrash on page Zion, and it's chapter Yud. It says, "Vatikrabna benos Tzlochchad." The daughters of Tzlochchad came close to Moshe, and the Midrash makes a statement. Also hador hoyu hanoshim godros mashe anoshim porti. In that generation, the women, the generation of the Yetzias Mitzrayim and the life in the Midbar, Osador, Hoyu Hanoshim Godros, Mashe Anoshim Portzim. The women fixed what the men broke. What are you saying here? Shikein Atamoitze. Because we find in that door, in the first situation, that women were told, Shama Lahem Aaron, when they wanted to build the calf. So Aaron, he faked that he was with them on that, and he wanted to put it off till Moshe came down and installed. But what did he say? He needed gold, so he said, Porku nizme hazahav asher ba'oznei nishechem. You want to build an idol? have to have gold from someplace. Take off the earrings of gold from the ears of your wives. The women didn't want to give them. They didn't want that their earrings should be given for idolatry. Umichu b'balehem. They protested what their husbands wanted to do. Nemar, because it said by Yisparchu kol ha'omes nizmeh, the whole nation took off their earrings and their golden jewelry and gave it to Aaron to make the cap, the golden cap. But Vanoshim lo nistatru imran. The women didn't partner with them, didn't help at all, and they protested the making of the egel. Anoshim lo nistatru imran b'maisa egel. The women did not partner with them in the building of the egel. So that was one victory. I mean, that's one thing, and that's why, they protested the making of the egel, where it was their men, the husbands who did. They wouldn't give their earrings and their jewelry. V'chein b'melaglim. Then later on, when the spies went, Meraglim shehotziu diba. The Meraglim spoke bad against Israel, that it was a land that eats up its people. And they frightened the Jews, and they made the whole thing that the Jews have to stay 40 years in the desert. They came to Meraglim shehotziu diba. So it was the case with the Meraglim, the spies who came and brought bad tidings, bad news, bad information about the Holy Land. Vayishuvu vayiloinu olav eskol ho'eda. They got the whole congregation of Israel to complain against Moshe. Ba'aleim nigzera gzera. They were the ones that had the gzera on them. Shamar lo nuchal lalos. They said that they can't go up to Israel. Abu Hanashim lo hoya imahem be'etza. The Nashim weren't together with them in this idea of not going into Israel. Shekasu b'mayla min Parsha. And they loved the land, like we see on these 5 daughters of Tzlopcha, that they wanted to inherit the land. Well, how do we see that? The Nashim, the women were not part of this tragedy that brought them another 38 years in the desert, because Parsha ki Amar Hashem lahem. God said, as a punishment for talking, giving false information, and the Jews accepting it, most yamusu bamidbar. You're going to die in the desert, all of them. Below nosar mihem ish. The only men that were left, that were the gzera on them, was 2. There were 2 people between the ages of 20 and 60. Those notes Abraham Ish, Ki Im Kalei ben Yefuna and Yehoshua ben Nun. They were the only ones who didn't talk. Lashon Hara, lies about their not being able to go into the land. So it says that no man was left over, lo nosar mehem ish, except Kalev and Yoshua. Ish v'lo isha. But women were. The gezerah of women between dying between the ages of 20 and 60, it wasn't on them. So it seems that they did go in. Ish v'lo isha. Al mashalo ratzu likones loris. That the Sarah was because the men didn't want to go in, and that's why they got scared from going in. But the women didn't get scared. Abu Hanashim, Kivu, Levakes, Nachla Ba'aretz. The women just the opposite. They wanted to have portions in Eretz Yisrael. וכך נכתבה פרשה זו סמוך למיסas Dor Midbar. That's why this parsha takes place of these women after the parsha of Shlach, close to the parsha of Shlach. Misham Portu Hanoshim Bigadru Hanoshim. In that situation, the men blew it. The men sinned, and the women fixed it because they wanted to go into Israel. Why didn't the men? Again, you're talking here about righteous men, but they felt that they got it good in the desert. They can study and they can learn. All day they got everything working for them. They got bread coming from heaven, and they got water coming from a rock, and they had the clouds air conditioning them, and secreting liquids that clean their garments, and all these miraculous things that were happening. In there, they had clouds under them, clouds around them, clouds on top of them. So what do they need to go into a land where they'll have to start farming? They won't have all these things. They'll have to get their own food, grow it. And they didn't want to go in. They wanted to be spiritual. But God wanted them to be spiritual in a physical, where they had to deal with physicality. And they should do it in the right way, the way called kadosh. And all that, and that's what God wanted. And they weren't interested in what God wanted. They were interested in what they wanted. And every difficulty that Jews had were difficulties with their obedience, with their understanding, with even their generations that saw godliness. But they had these tests and they failed. But here, the Midrash is saying it was the men that failed, not the women. They wanted to go into Israel. Like we see here, these daughters, this Tzlopchad fellow didn't have sons. They just had daughters. So they wanted to bring the question to Moshe. They brought that what if a father doesn't have sons? Can daughters inherit the land? And it came out that yes. And it was a parsha that God uh, answered Moshe. It went all the way up first to ask the lower courts and then the higher courts, and nobody knew. And they probably asked Moshe, and Moshe said, I'll ask God. And God said that they will be, they can have the land. So you see, they wanted the land. And it seems like the woman did go into the land. The women between men under 20 did go, and over 60 did go in. But the men between the Yote Chava, who could go to the military between 20 and 60, they died in the desert. Yeah, they lived in they all died. When they were 60. But they had all the delights of what the Jews went through. They went through some difficult moments too, where God tested them. But most of their time in the desert was spent properly. So I've got to cut it here. I want to learn other things. It's very interesting thing that they uh, God had a whole system for the Jews to know what they're going to. This parsha talks about inheriting and how they were to inherit. When which tribe gets which part of Israel, and they said it al pi Goyro, that this was on the usually al pi just means according to the Goyro or lottery, where they picked out what assigned to them. Wasn't a regular lottery, but it said the al pi hagoyro, that with the mouth of the goyro, the goyro spoke and said, which is the portion in land that everyone will receive. Anyway, let me wish you all a good Shabbos, and who do we have here? So, Berk is not here. He's in Israel.
No, we've just Michael Scher and Moshe Lifshitz and Jonathan. That's all.
Listen, it's worth it to do the whole class. I would hope that we get more people to listen, and maybe some people do listen on the Moshe Lipschitz made it possible.
Yes.
Right, Moshe? And,
Yes.
I would like to see that happen. But meanwhile, I'm the big winner. I learn. I see what we should. I wouldn't know anything in Midrash if it weren't for this class. So I think.
You, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Feller.
Okay, we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get earlier, Mariv. So that's why I got, and Mincha is earlier, so I got to get going to Mincha.
Yeah.
All
Good
right.
Shabbos, Rabbi.
So let me wish you all a good Shabbos, a healthy Shabbos, and we'll meet the Midrash together next Thursday at 7:00.
Thank you. We look
Thank you,
forward.
Rabbi. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Very good Shabbos to everybody. Good Shabbos.